Vikings Tonight, brought to you by Midwest Federal.
All that glittered was gold on this 50th showdown between a couple of friendly Midwestern neighbors. It was barely a tussle as the Vikings applied a full Nelson on the baffled pack. Indeed, TK had his personal best, a half dozen TD tosses before he was through, giving way to a view from the bench. The field was no place for the faint of heart as the Vikings laid waste to Wright and Vince. Call it veteran defense, because there was one big headache for Mr. Gregg and the green and gold. Stay tuned for Vikings Tonight.
Vikings Tonight, brought to you by Midwest Federal, your good tree to come to since 1891.
You name it, and it happened to us today. I don't know how a team could ever play any worse than we did today. I thought the opening game of the season was the worst game I'd ever seen a team play. But this one right here, I think we have to live in my mind forever as the worst.
Harsh but honest words from a beleaguered coach of a winless team. Good evening, everyone. I'm Mark Rosen. Welcome to the Vikings Tonight. And tonight, the Vikings are 3-1 after their 42-7 win over the Packers. Our co-hosts throughout the season who are here to offer their insight into the game and the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. Defensive captain Scott Studwell, who returned to the lineup with a bang this afternoon. Greg Coleman, who is missing in action tonight after walking off the set last week. Remains to be seen whether Mr. Coleman will return. And running back Darren Nelson, who tasseled the Packers with his footwork. Welcome, gentlemen. At least two of you are here. You know, we heard the words of Green Bay coach Forrest Gregg, who flat out said the Vikings just kicked our butts. They totally humiliated us. But after 5 straight losses to those guys, I would think Forrest Gregg's words are probably music to your ears, Scott, after losing the Packers like that.
It's been a while. I think everybody realizes we haven't beaten the Packers in 2.5 years. And it was important for us not only to win, but to win big. And we really felt like we've owed them something for quite some time. And they've certainly been a thorn in our side for a couple of years now. And it's nice to win one like that.
Same feeling, I would imagine, Darren?
I think we're definitely due for a win. You know, I've always had big games against the Packers, but we've never won them. So I think it was pretty gratifying to finally win a game against them.
We've outscored your last two opponents, Scott, to 73-14. 37 points you've given up. That's the fewest in the National Football League.
Well, I think it's certainly something to hang your hat on. But I think we also have to be realistic enough to know that we haven't played the championship caliber teams yet. We're 3-1, but the teams that we've beaten have only won 3 games collectively between the 3 of them. So we'll find out how good we are the next 3 or 4 weeks. And I think it's a good start for us, but we certainly have a lot of work to do yet.
And let's face it, you got to have the toughest scheduled football the next 3 weeks. You got 2 games with the Chicago Bears and the other one with San Francisco.
It's not getting any easier, but I tell you, I'm real excited about going down and playing Chicago. And I think there's 44 other guys that are just as excited as I am. And I think it's going to be a real bloodletting down there, and we're all looking forward to it. I think we've got a good shot of beating it.
Not too much blood.
As long as it's Greg's, we don't care, right, Darren?
Where is he?
Hey, I don't have anything to say.
Tommy Kramer, what an afternoon for TK. You know, he has passed for more yards and had more completions a number of times in his career, but he's never found the end zone more than today. 6 times, 1 shy of the NFL record, and Kramer barely played in the second half. Possibly the most impressive Kramer stat is that he hasn't thrown an interception in over 100 attempts. 1 year ago, Kramer led the NFL in that dubious department. Kramer will be the first to admit an improved offensive line is the main reason for his improved accuracy. Kramer's stormy relationship with the fans has been well documented. The chorus of boos have been heard more often than cheers in recent years. Offensive lineman Tim Irwin marvels at Kramer's attitude.
I think one thing about TK, no matter what, he doesn't let anything get him down. He's got a lot of confidence, borderline cockiness, and you got to have that in your quarterback. When he gets under the center and barks out those signals, you know, he emanates that confidence to the rest of us, and we know we're going to score.
Kramer's 6th touchdown of the day also pushed him over the 20,000-yard milestone. Tommy knew he was only 1 away from an NFL record. He wanted to tie it and break it, but the Vikings coaching staff did not want to risk an injury, so Kramer sat down. The reporters covering the game got a lot closer to Kramer than the Packers did. After answering his critics game after game, Kramer could have used this time to boast, but chose the practical route.
Well, I think I'm playing better now, and but it's, you can forget about what you did today or yesterday or whatever. You got to go out and prove it again next week, and this is going to be a big game for us against the Bears. We want to come back, from Chicago, tied for first place.
Yes, Tommy was Top Gun today. 6 touchdown passes with 12.5 minutes left in the third quarter. He had a great shot at the NFL record of 7. He probably would have set a new one. And look who's here, Greg Coleman. Welcome to our show. Do you have a watch? Do you know the show started 5 minutes ago?
Well, I had Mark, it's been a difficult time. Seriously, I just speak to my attorney and after talking with my wife, we decided it'd be best that I come on the show, because I wouldn't want to let down all the folks in here.
We missed him too, didn't we, guys? We're talking about Tommy Kramer. Scott, I would imagine it would be hard to tell someone as competitive as Tommy to sit down knowing you're that close to the record.
Yeah, I think it certainly was very hard for him. All the criticism he's taken the last 2 or 3 years, and especially coming off what he probably considered a poor year last year, and he wants to do so well, and everybody wants him to do well too. And it's, the criticism he got early in the season, especially with Detroit and Tampa Bay, I think he certainly feels like he's got an awful lot to prove, and he's certainly doing it he's done it the last couple of weeks. And anytime you're that close to a record, you certainly would like to get one. But I think Tommy's realistic enough to know that there's more important things in the record sometimes. And,
like his health.
Yeah, and that's important, and it's important to let Wade play some too.
Well, Tommy Kramer, as you mentioned, Scott, has suffered his share of ups and downs in his football career, often criticized by the fans who make their feelings known from the stands and by others, such as head coach Jerry Burns, who has chided the quarterback in the press just a few times this year.
No, I don't try to coach. I don't think it's the right thing to try to coach the team through the media. We say the same thing to them in practice. We tell them in the meetings that they didn't play well. Afterwards, if we're questioning how so-and-so played, we'll say they didn't play well. That's as flat out as it may be. And like I tell the players, they're not paid to play this game. They're paid to win it. And that people come in and see them win on Sundays, and that's what we intend to do.
Well, Darren, Bud Grant would rarely, if ever, criticize a player, even constructively, in the media. Jerry Burns has already done so. Does it matter to you if the head coach comes out and says something that you find out in print or on television?
No, I think it definitely matters. I think it hurts your pride a little bit. Also, I think, when you look at it, everybody knows if he played well or not. Everyone's there watching the game, it's on the news and things like that. And I think it just adds a little salt to the wound when you know that your coach is going to criticize y'all. So.
Well, Tommy Kramer certainly responded to all the criticism, to a lot of questions to answer, at least for one day again. Coming up in our show, a look at a quarter that won't be forgotten, and a look ahead to the Bears for the showdown in the Windy City, all right here on the Vikings Tonight. Welcome back to the Vikings Tonight, live, and I mean live, from Channel 4 studios. Today's first quarter was certainly one of the longest in recent memory. It took over an hour to complete, but without a doubt, the most productive in the Vikings history. 28 points. Darren, nice start. Opening drive, so important, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, I think the opening drive is very important always, because it kind of sets the tempo for the game, and we got off to a really good start.
Everyone was so happy for Steve Jordan. Led the NFC in tight ends last year for receptions. Caught 2 touchdowns finally today.
Well, first of all, Steve's my roommate, so I'm not going to be able to live with him now because he has more touchdowns than I do. But I think most of us are real happy for Steve because Steve had a 2-year drought where he just couldn't buy a touchdown. All of a sudden, he got 2 in 1 game, so I think we're all real proud of it.
Scott, nice way to break back in the lineup today.
Well, I tell you what, it's I always get so surprised every time I touch the football. Obviously, you can tell by that run. I've kept my 3-yard average in
Well, here's a guy who'll show you how to run. Take it from here, Darren. This is one of the most dazzling runs we've seen at the Metrodome.
I taught him everything.
Yeah, well, Scott taught me how to do this. A cut back on the guy right there. Actually, I practiced that move on Scott many times. It doesn't work all the time, but I practice it on him, right.
Here's another look at it. I'm sure you just love to be isolated in that zone.
Well, I think I'm basically a one-on-one type of football player. You know, I'm not going to run over anybody. I'm going to try to run around and try to beat them with quickness. You know, that's my game.
You know, watch the Packers last Monday night. Certainly put on a very respectable show against the Chicago Bears. Their offense has been suffering. They had scored just one touchdown in the first 3 games. But do you think it was going to be that easy against that defense today?
Well, I thought their defense played really well all season long. Basically, I think their main problem was that their offense couldn't move the football. But I think today, I think we just took them out of the game defensively.
Their offense has certainly had something to do with that. DeForest Gregg said after the game, I know there's some good quarterbacks out there, and I'll tell you one thing, I'll be taking a look at them. I mean, they are really hurting in that department. Keith Millard got a great pass rush here, Scott. Dumped him early. Randy Wright.
Well, Keith lives and dies for these sacks. If he doesn't get a sack every game, he gets very disappointed. And the defensive line is playing so well right now that they're really the key to our defense right now, and it all starts up front.
Hassan Jones here, Darren.
Hassan's having a fine year. You know, I think Hassan's up for the Rookie of the Year award right now. He's playing well. He got off to kind of a slow start, but he's setting the world on fire right now.
Had your chance for glory here, Scott. Had the end zone in your sights.
Well, it's those great hands, you know. It's not thrown right to me. You might as well forget it. Last one I fell on, I broke my ribs.
Wanted to pick it up.
I'm giving up on diving on fumbles.
Greg, the Packers got him off sides here, a 52-yard field goal attempt. This is a big break here for the Vikes.
Well, it was 4th and 4, and you know, we gave a fake set call and a color call and a set call, and I guess they were a little more, a little aggressive.
Jordan took advantage of it too. A touchdown pass to Steve.
Well, it helps, you know. Although I'm sure Chuck Nelson wanted that 52-yarder.
And he did. He said he was confident of getting it. Now, this is the play. Randy Wright. It was an incomplete pass. No one touched him. He went down. Evidently was battling the flu. Was dehydrated. Was getting fluids before the game. Yet Forrest Gregg decided to start him. Which may tell you something about what he thinks about Vince Ferragamo, his backup. The Packers, after cutting Lynn Dickey and Kaufman and the like guys, it's not the same team, let's face it.
They really aren't. I think Forrest has cut 45 out of 53 players that were there when Bart Starr was there, and he's let go some awful good football players, and he may end up cutting his own throat. Really
Could be. I'm sure they are going to hear about it in Green Bay this week.
I don't imagine he's going to be the most popular guy in town.
Probably not, but who cares? As we saw earlier, Kramer's final 2 scores went to Hassan Jones again and to Mike Mularkey. The Vikings defense did the rest. 42-7 was the final. And coming up, the Bears and why they were bad news to the Bengals, and later, the Coleman Capers continue here on the Vikings Tonight.
Mark, if anybody has beaten up on you the way the Bears have beaten up on us for the last 2 or 3 years, I mean, I think you'd be a little upset too.
Last year, the Bears only lost the 1 game to Miami, but take back and look at that Thursday night game. I mean, Tommy Kramer's performance that night, the Vikings offense performance, actually the entire team, was something that the Bears probably didn't see all of last year.
I think we probably played the Bears as well as anybody did last year, and I really think that they turned their season around when they came back and beat us on that Thursday night football game. We really had the game won. They were having some problems, both offensively and defensively. McMahon came in and got hot, a lot like he did today in Cincinnati. So maybe he's gotten through that stage right now, and you have to give him a lot of respect. And they've got a great football team, but I think we've got a real good football team, and we're excited about playing them.
Darren, you think the timing is right? You guys, let's face it, have not played the world powers so far, but you've won. You've been very impressive in the 3 victories. Is it right now to play the Bears? You got them through the next 3 weeks?
I think the timing is perfect. Last year when we played them on that Thursday night game, I think we were 2-0 and they were 2-0, and we were confident and they were confident, and we played them really well, and I think it was a game that we should have won. Now I think the situation is almost the same. I think we're very confident right now. I know the Bears are, so it's going to be a good football game.
And again, the underdog role, Greg, does that suit you just fine going in there?
Well, you know, whenever you go against the Super Bowl champs, you know you're going to be underdogs. A lot of teams, a lot of people say, well, the Vikings aren't that good to be 3-1, and so, you know, we've got a few good players, but they really haven't met, you know, the real Viking football team, and that's what we're going to see next Sunday.
Well, almost every week, as I mentioned, is a Super Bowl week of sorts for the Bears. Every team they play wants to knock off the top cat. Tim Herman and Joey Brown are both talking about the game already.
The Bears are tough. I thought that was going to be a pretty good defense we played out there today. Their defensive lineman, you know, I got nothing but compliments for Carricker. He's improved a lot as a ball player. And I know how the Bears defensive line plays, playing them when they're down and when they're up. So I expect nothing but a tough competition for the next 3 weeks. San Francisco is certainly no slouch either.
Let's face it, the next 3 weeks you have the Bears twice, San Francisco sandwiched in between. Is the timing right to face the caliber of those clubs right now?
Yes, we're ready for it. That's the only way to see how good your team is to face the tougher teams and get right in there and get in the thick of things, and I think we're really ready for it.
Big rout over the Packers today. The special teams came through. Greg, Isaac Holt with that block punt. You didn't get anything out of it, but again, improvement in that area.
Well, anytime you talk about special teams, it brings a smile to my face because in something like that, you know, it's something that Tom Batter's been working on all week with some of the younger guys, and he always will tell them, the guys on the punt return team and a punt block team, you don't know who's going to pop. You got to go hard every time and be ready, and Isaac happened to be the guy, and he did a great job. Frustrating day for Joey Browner. He had 3 interceptions, but only 1 counted. 2 were nullified, including an 80-yarder for a touchdown. That was a tough day for Joey. Well, a tough day, but, you know, Joey has a nose for the ball. He was at the right place at the right time, 3 times, but only 1 counted. And I'm sure he's disappointed because if he had held on those other 2 counted, he'd probably be tied for the lead with interceptions. Well, Chuck Nelson did have his string of field goals snapped when the Packers blocked one late in the first half. Was this just a good effort by the Packers, or was there a breakdown up front? Well, I think it was a combination of both. The Packers always come on every play, and there probably was a little breakdown, and I'm sure we'll hear from Coach Tom Batter and Johnny Michaels tomorrow in meeting. Now, you got hit late in the game, hit the deck. Some concern early here. Did you fall on your neck? Well, I didn't actually fall on my neck. I fell on my back, and while I hit the ground, my head went back. You know, it was a little neck strain, but, you know, nothing. Started to feel a little bit better. The teammates, of course, rushed over to your aid here as you're washing off the field. Well, you know, it's hard to stay serious around these guys, you know, because they... well, Leo wanted to help you out here. And Leo is supposed to be my roommate. I mean, a roommate, my captain. I mean, and he and Dolman, I tell you, but... yeah, I'm not the only one. Things like that happen, Mark. Well, I understand that. Getting back to the Chicago Bears, too, you know, you talked about the talent on that team. How much did Jerry Burns talk about that this week and say, well, look at the films of these guys, that they do it that much better? Are there intangibles that really make up the difference in that game, Scott? I don't think there really has to be a lot said. I think all the players realize how good the Chicago Bears are. I don't think we need anybody to tell us how good they are. All along, Burnsy's just stressed that we have to continue to improve every week, and up to this point, we have. You know what I liked about the defense? That you guys were at 42-7, and the Packers went through that long 11-minute march, it seemed like. And the defense was playing as if the game was on the line in the final minute there. Well, I think it's important to us. We haven't been scored on. I don't think they've scored a touchdown on us in the second half all year long, and that's a heck of an accomplishment. And I think that's important to the players. And a lot of the times when you get put in a situation like that, you have a lot of the backup players in there. They don't have the experience, but they're playing real hard. And I've said all along that we have as much depth on this football team as we've had here since I've been here. And it can do nothing but get better because we have so many young players. Well, guys, good luck next week. Greg, thank you very much for being a gentleman again this week. I know you were a little upset last week. A lot of people thought you were really serious when you walked off the show. Would you like to clarify that and clear that up tonight? I mean, Mark, my actions speaks for themselves. I mean, it was... oh, goodness. What do you mean, oh, goodness? It'll be a showdown for first place next Sunday at Soldier Field, Chicago. We'll be there, and we'll be back right here next Sunday night on the Vikings Tonight. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you again next week.
Vikings